Commission meeting to order. Sarah, would you do us the pleasure of reading us the roll call, please?
Absolutely. Laura Greenlee-Karp.
Here.
Sarah Zahradka.
Here.
Lloyd Grachek.
Here.
David Andren.
Here.
Ben Hansen is excused. Ingrid Koller.
Here.
Rachel Lucas.
Here.
And Cassidy Schweer is excused.
All right. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I make a motion.
Second.
Wonderful. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Agenda adopted. Okay, and now let's have a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion.
Approve the minutes.
I second.
Wonderful. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, minutes approved. Meeting open to the public. We're no longer doing Zoom and we have no one here. So we will cross that off our list. Great. So our first commission business item is a budget update. Please enthrall us with the budget.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Thank you very much for that. Now that's going to be tough to overcome. But no, I'm going to show some information and hopefully we can get into some dialogue. And then there's kind of an assignment because we're started the 2026 CIP process. And so I'll kind of walk through that part to it. Stop me at any time if you have any questions. Want to make sure that given the information, if you need additional information from what's given tonight, please let me know, or in a different format or whatever you need. First of all, I want to thank you all. Obviously, you're volunteering your time to this wonderful city and helping out with our park and rec needs in the city, and thank each and every one of you for giving time to the city because it's very, very valuable. Tonight's agenda, going to look at quickly, going to look at the park and recreation funding from an operating standpoint, just kind of explain a little bit about that, the capital, and we'll give you kind of where you're at as far as dollar amounts in your park dedication fund, and then the park fund itself. Kind of take a look at what was approved for the 2025 to 34 CIP. I'm going to take a look, and it ties into, we do a 10-year financial plan on all of our major funds. So I'm going to show you what your park fund looks like. And then talk about the 2026 CIP process that has started. And then my understanding is that there's kind of a desire for some items to be potentially done this year in 2025, even though they haven't been approved. So I'll kind of walk through kind of what the process would be for that. And then if there's questions or discussion that from that, but again, stop me at any point in time. From an operational standpoint, basically all of the day-to-day needs are funded in the general fund, either in the parks budget, the recreation budget, and all of the facilities and the needs in the facilities are covered through the building maintenance fund. So none of that is coming out of a park fund per se, or the park dedication fund. So it's all covered underneath those. There's two primary capital funds that Parks has, and that's the Park Dedication Fund. And that has a little bit of restriction onto it per Minnesota state statute, and it must be used only for acquisition and development or improvement of parks, recreation facilities, playgrounds, trails, wetlands, or open space based on the approved park systems plan. Cash payments but not be used for ongoing operation or maintenance of parks, recreation facilities, playgrounds, trails, wetlands, or open space. And then you have the Park Capital Fund. This is kind of a snapshot of the balance sheet of the Park Dedication Fund. As you can see, you've got a little over $456,000 in cash, and there's no additional liabilities or assets or anything associated with that. And so you basically have that in cash as of March 31st. To date, there's been revenue of $3,400. It's really through investments is where the revenue has come from.
Okay.
So there hasn't been any park dedication fees that have been collected this year so far through March. So this is basically, there's two components. There's a market value adjustment that needs to be done, and then there's an investment income that is done. So that's what amounts to that $3,400. Now, right now, when we look at the capital plan and we look at where the funding sources are, right now we have nothing dedicated out of this park dedication fund. So we have nothing earmarked from 25 to 2034 that's being funded through park dedication fund. And I believe a few years back we did have it as an item, and thanks to Sara, she's got some historical information and that she shared, and so we switched that away from that. Doesn't mean that the park can't make a decision to use some of this funds in the future, again, with the restriction from the Minnesota state statute that I had just previously read. But right now we're not identifying anything coming out of that fund. And then the other fund that you have, and this is a revenue and expense report off of our financial system, is the Park Dedication Fund. And so from the revenue standpoint, you're going to see, this is for this year through March, there's been a market value adjustment. Year-to-date actual is a little about $1,100. Investment income is just under $2,300. Again, there's been no park dedication fees that have gone to this fund, which there shouldn't be. And so there's been $3,400 in revenues. There has been no expenditures to date coming out of the park fund, or maybe, no, was that the revenue side to it? I'm not sure. Out of the park fund, I'm sorry, there has been one expenditure, I'm sorry. Matter of fact, I'm going to back up. The revenue expense report that I just showed you is just the park dedication fund. So that kind of shows you, I'm sorry, when I showed you the balance sheet, you see the revenue, the 3,400. Mm-hmm. This is the detail of that 3,400. So my mistake, apologize for that. Then we'll move over to the park fund itself. This is the balance sheet look, and then we'll look at the revenue and expense. And so there's cash of $763,000. There's a fund balance of $729,000. The differences that you're seeing there are from the liability, that there's, accounts payable pending. In other words, there's bills that's, is in the process of being paid. There's a park deposit. Again, rental income goes into here. There's two components. There's the actual revenue that you get from the rental, but before it's actually realized, there's a park deposit that'll end up getting refunded if they've followed all the rules and regulations that are required for renting our property. And then there's the deferred revenue, and deferred revenue just means that it's been collected, but it hasn't been recognized at this point in time, so it's not full revenue. But revenue to date is a little over $29,000 through March. And the composition of that is park rental fees have been about $23,500. Again, there's a market value adjustment of about $1,800, investment income of $3,300, donations of $55, park advertising of $300, and miscellaneous of $300 to make up that $29,000 in revenue. On the expenditure side, there's only been one expenditure for approximately $4,600, and that was the last payment to HGA for their study.
Okay. So are they paid up complete now?
They're paid up complete.
Yeah, correct.
This is the Park Fund 2025-2034 CIP plan. As you can see, there was nothing that was identified and or approved for 2025. That's where we'll talk a little bit about looking at some potential requests that you've made and how we would go about doing those. But nothing has been approved this year, so nothing is City Council hasn't approved the allocation of funds to be expended. So be aware of that. And then you can see all of the different other items that have been identified in estimated costs from 2026 through 2034. There are write-ups attached in the very back of the document for each and every one of these. And that'll be a part of the request as we move into preparing this CIP for 2026 to 2035, is to make sure that these are aligned to what your plan is. If you have any updated costs, if there's something that's out, something that's, you're putting in, this is where it'll end up showing for that. But we want to get your approval and recommendation on what you want to be in the next 10-year plan, based upon all the studies that you've done and everything else. You have to understand that the city doesn't have a lot of extra money to just do some of those bigger projects, especially when we look at some of those projects that HG had talked about. So my recommendation would be to try to break those up as possible. So kind of in a overall kind of mechanism way of how things are done. It's very critical that we get this as close to what you want as possible. And here's the reason for it. Because it's based upon this that I'll then show you the financial plan. I take this information, incorporate it into the plan, look at what your cash balances are, if there's any operating costs, which this fund doesn't really have operating costs, and I project out what would need to be raised to be able to afford what you're looking at. Right now, City Council has three components based upon this CIP, and they're all pretty much infrastructural needs that we are actually levying separate dollars that are going into these various funds. One being the street maintenance. If you drive around the city, you see that our streets need a lot of help. So there's a dedicated 3.5% in 2025. It's my recommendation that they continue doing that for a number of years. And then there's a 2% that's going to our facilities. Last year we completed a facility assessment of all our facilities, including parks facilities. That's incorporated into the CIP. And then there's 2% for that, and then there's a 0.6% to be able to fund this park and recreation plan through 2034. Obviously, when there's changes that are made to it and costs that are increased, the first look that'll do is what will that cost us to do? Can we cash flow it moving forward? There's always different options, but we'll take a look at that. The city, was fortunate enough this year, we went out for a bonding for street reconstruction project. Right now, we're doing major bonding on street reconstructions on the odd years, 25, 7, and 9. And we were fortunate enough to get a bond upgrade. So we have moved up from a AA to AA plus. There's only one more step to go. That's AAA. We will never get there. There's other factors that are there. To me, the biggest reason that we've got that upgrade, to be totally honest, is because since I've been here, we, in the city manager and with the support of City Council, have really pushed into planning. It's these CIP plans. Before I came here, there wasn't a comprehensive capital improvement plan that was trying to come in. Again, it's a living document. It's supposed to change over time. There were not 10-year financial plans. We upped our fund balance policies. We have a fantastic set of department heads that are in the city, very conscious, do a heck of a great job. All of those contributed to us getting an upgrade to it. But with that, what we have shared with the rating company at S&P is that our intention of bonding was 25, 27, and 29. So it's going to be very difficult if we're going to do additional bonding in those years, because part of that upgrade is what they consider. I shared something last Tuesday with our city council, and I'd like to share it with this group too. Since I've been here, there's been a lot of times where there's comparisons, whether it's the police department or something else, and they'll compare us to the city of Mounds View. And they'll say, well, why can Mounds View do that? They have a staffing level of this versus what we have in this city. And so, I said, yeah, we're about the same population. Size-wise, we're not all that different. Composition of property, they have a little bit more commercial base than we do. We're very heavy on our residential base in the city. So, but the biggest difference is debt. So I kind of did a little exercise with the city council, and I said, okay, I pulled out the last published financial statement that Mounds View did, and so I got ours of the same year. It was the end of 2023. And there's two major categories that you kind of look at: governmental, which includes your general fund, what you actually have to levy for, and then there's business type or enterprise things, and those are utilities. And so I said, at the end of 2023, Mounds View, in their governmental, had an outstanding debt of $5 million. And so I said, what do you think North St. Paul's is at? I had one council member say 0. And the truth is that we're, I think, over 16 million in our business side to it, our enterprise, our utilities. Mounds View was at about 5 million. We're at 20. So you compare those two at the end of the year, total debt they have is 10 million. We had $36 million. But if I just take a snapshot of just what your debt and interest payment is per year, we were so much higher. And what it translates to is, at the end of the day, because I've been trying to get city council to understand this, and they do a very good job with this, is that's why we have a high property tax rate. That's why we have higher utility rates than you'll see in comparable cities around this area, is because we're carrying too much debt. Part of our plan that we've been doing, and part of the success of this financial plan in planning out 10 years, is that in by dedicating levy to the parks, the facilities, to the streets, is I'm generating cash. Mm-hmm. I want us to move into more of a cash basis versus carrying this debt. And one of the rule of thumbs I'll just kind of throw out there is that if I go out and bond for $1 million at a 5%, I'm going to be paying a principal and debt interest and principal payment of approximately $80,000 for a 20-year term. At the end of 20 years, I paid $1.6 million for that $1 million. We need to do a better job of moving us to a cash, and that's what that plan is. But what it means is that we can't vary from that plan greatly and start to increase more and more debt and going out and bonding. So when we take a look at this plan and you go and you pull in some of those HGA components to it, the question is, could you afford to pay $8 million? The answer is going to be no. Can you smaller amounts? Could you? I think we can figure out ways to be able to do that, and that's kind of the challenge that we'll end up having as we develop this updating of the CIP. And then it's going to come down to that, okay, now we need to look at that. We need to really start to get into prioritizing. And it's not just prioritizing Parks and Rec, it's prioritizing everything that's in that CIP to make sure that we can afford it. So that's kind of a backdrop, so you kind of get a bigger picture of kind of what the city is faced with and what we're trying to do to put ourselves in a better position. And this is our financial plan, and I know it's very hard to look at, but you can see what this does is it takes the revenues. It'll show you from an actual of 22, 3, 4. It'll show you what's budgeted in 25. The proposed budget's moving from 26 all the way through 2034 with some assumptions onto it. I think most of you are all aware that we have $100,000 that's shown that we get local government aid. That's something that may be in question again, especially when we move into the state's biennium for 2028 and 2029. Right now, I think the last projection that I've seen from the state is that they're anticipating a $16 billion deficit for the biennium of 2028-2029. What does that mean? Normally, there's a good chance of what happens is that they start to cut funding of programs to counties and cities. And local government aid just happens to be one area in which they could get us, the city. So we have to keep our eyes on to that. But right now, we're projecting out that to be 100. And then we have kind of projection of, again, there's the ad valorem taxes, the levy that's out there right now. And then we'll be projecting that upwards as the city adopts every single year as they move forward. And then you can see we put in, the capital plan is underneath in the capital, and then try to project with what the cash is, and we move all the way through it. And you can see that even on this plan in 2026, if you were to do everything that was on the plan 26, 27, all the way through 29 would have negative cash. So to make that happen, what we would end up doing is we'd end up having City Council pass a resolution. We would just borrow from another fund at that point in time. But as you go through all the way through 2035, you can see we're positive. So to me, yes, there's ways that we could fund what is currently in the capital improvement plan. However, that doesn't address the HGA because that was never a part of this plan. It doesn't address maybe some of your other needs and other desires that you have coming up. But let's get them out there so then we can take a look at them and see if can we move ahead. So for the 2026 CIP process, there is a template that I had attached. So the first step that in the instructions that I give to all the department heads is that I want them to review all of their projects for the years of 2026 through 2034, adjust any costs that they believe, their description, justifications, priorities, anything else that they need to change. And then any new projects that they have through 26 to 35, and especially 35, because 35 is not on there yet, that there's a template that they can do a write-up, and they'll put a project, I'll assign a project number to it. They'll put a project name, department, it'll be parks, a contact person, there's drop-downs for types, useful life category, and then we'll get it into the CIP plan and then roll it all together. Then I run it through the financial plans and see what we have to do to be able to afford what's happening onto that. So for those items that you're looking at that weren't approved yet for the 2025, you'll fill out one of these forms, attach any supporting documentation, maps, whatever you have, designate a project sponsor. Staff will review all of the documentation. We'll set up a meeting with the sponsors, and staff to kind of go through the project. Obviously, staff will include Public Works to find out is it feasible? Have we covered all the costs? Is it everything looking good? If it looks like it's a feasible project and we can move, it's something that could be moved forward. Identify a possible funding source for it. And then we would end up having to put it together and have it presented to City Council, because ultimately it has to be approved by City Council, and the funding has to be approved by City Council. So that's kind of the mechanism and how we will go about trying to address some of those 2025 items that you have out there.
What's a project sponsor? Who's a project sponsor?
If there's somebody who wants to be kind of more of the spokesperson for that project, yes, it would, yeah.
So in this case, like, you would be maybe the person being she's chair? Is that how it works? 'Cause my question is, I don't know, were any proposals from HGA that was submitted to city council, did any of those pass, or is city council still waiting for feedback from this commission, or where do we sit with that?
So you're talking about the
The
specific,
3 parks that we were just looking at developing, McKnight Fields, the one on Third Street and the one down here by VFW. So has any of that been looked at, or any kind of approval to move forward with those plans? Or is this something we have to write up saying this is kind of where we would like to be?
case.
Talking about the HGA, like, plan itself, or are you
Well,
asking the question about the finances that came from the plan?
No, there was some financing, but we haven't really gotten a go-ahead to start developing like the one on Third Street, which, I think we should. But we haven't heard back from city council. If they said, yes, they like these ideas, let's go to the next step. Have they gotten to that point yet?
I believe it was presented to city council. And I don't believe they didn't agree with it. I think they moved forward. There was no funding attached. There was nothing that was approved from that standpoint. I think from a conceptual standpoint, they agreed with the report. Now, this is where kind of the rub kind of comes into it.
Right.
Now we need to get it in to the financial side to it and the planning. And yes, to me, this would be the mechanism. Fill out a form onto it. And you can just reference it's this park or whatever. And again, my suggestion is to try to break some of those out. Like when I look at, the McKnight Field, again, don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but you're not going to be able to afford a $6 million project. So if there's components that we could move forward with and try to get estimates for, I would write them up as a separate
Right.
document. And then just, the reference part is kind of talk about that specific component to it and reference the HGA report that's there. Once it gets into this, then I can see what we can do and make a recommendation for a funding source to it. Obviously, it'll be passed by you because we'll work with, definitely work with you, and that's why you're a part of the whole process, the sponsor. And then if everything is working, the city manager's in agreement, we'll take it to city council and we'll have them make the final decision. And it'll include approval of the project budget, the financing source, and everything, so we can move it forward.
And I don't, to answer your question, I don't think I would have to be the project sponsor.
Well, I just using you as an example.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
saying,
but
like,
if you, it could be any of us.
Be Rachel. Should be a good one.
What did it run to pay? What did it cost to pay HGA to do what they did?
I believe it was $60,000,
No, that ain't bad.
for the contract that they did, the agreement.
One question about that, just as a question in the notes, because I know it's popped up a lot in the budget, is the parking lot, which keeps coming up as like a $500,000 McKnight. And we did discuss last meeting that would be rolled in, and wait till we do the project. Parking lots, I guess, was my bigger question. Are those out of the park fund, or are those out of roads? And because I guess I don't ever recall paying for a parking lot at any of the other parks. I mean, we don't really have parking lot. I mean, Silver Lake, those were done as part of the road project. Casey Lake, they resurfaced when we did the building, but we didn't take that out of the park fund. So curious, because that's a big amount of money coming out of our budget, which obviously, as we budget for McKnight, would have to be done. But just curious, where the city budgets come in with things like that versus park funds.
Again, I don't submit these. They
Okay.
come to me and that stuff. But and I love coming here with you because you very good things. You make a very good point. And so what I'm going to do based off of this is I'm going to look at how would it flow into, it would be part of that whole street maintenance.
Yeah.
And throw that in, take a look at throwing that in there.
That would be great. Because I think about when we think about using our budget, we want to make it to make the parks be beautiful, which a parking lot certainly does help, but it certainly doesn't preserve natural landscape. So I'm just thinking you could have some angry people coming if they actually got into the nitty gritty saying, why is our park dollars being spent for a parking lot?
I absolutely agree, especially if it's I'm going to say more of a maintenance item.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly,
If you were to say, I'm going to build a whole brand new parking lot,
Yeah.
then I would make more of a think. And I think what you make very good points. And for my team being here, what you've stated is correct.
okay.
So it does look like it's more consistent with that. And I definitely will.
That would be great, because that's a lot of money as we talk about.
Well, we
McKnight.
also got 500,000 for McKnight Fields for the sports complex to be redone.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can go through that. I just had a question about that one specifically because it's next year.
Well, my concern there is if we are able to do any upgrades with some of that area, do we want to put money into something that we're going to be either taking out or won't be part of the new design? That's my question.
No, I don't think so. And I think what he's saying is, I think what we need to do is, as we plan these out and break them out, is to say, okay, we're going to break McKnight Fields into 10 projects, honestly. We're going to say, what's that grass or turf area? If we don't have to take care of the parking lot, we'll say that's part of the roads and whatever. But then we can say the Ninja Park, the playground, the pavilion space. I think our best bet is to write those up separately, start from the bottom up where that parking lot's going to be, and then try to get them approved if we can't tackle it in one big thing. And that's what he's saying. That way they can get the cost estimate broken down.
Oh.
We never had thought we could do McKnight all at once anyways.
No, we were thinking two.
Getting that 500,000 back is a big deal.
You know,
And that is a part of what we're gonna do, after we're done talking about the budget too, is Sarah and I took our notes from the last meeting and helped, put together kind of like the top 4 priority things that we discussed. So, if we would be willing to put like a pin in this discussion, so we can finish the budget
Yeah.
and then bring it into our next one, I think that would be really helpful.
All I can say from that discussion right there is that it's spot on.
yeah.
That's the right approach to go about this. And yeah, so consider that McKnight parking lot out of there.
Awesome.
And then it'll be updated, and then I'll incorporate in that you have in there. But I gotta stop gumming here because every time I come here, she
That's why I'm divorced.
But I remind myself, it's not my money. It's not my money. But very good points. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions?
No, the mount looks nice, but in reality, we're going to have to focus down to it's in reality for the long term, because I know we're never going to have 15 million to do McKnight.
No.
So I like what you said, Sarah, is maybe we had to piece it together into little parts, and then over the course of 10, 15 years, maybe we'll get it all.
Yeah, but I think doing that in conjunction with the city is important because we do know that parking lot needs to be refinished. But the part of the reason Cassidy said it was held off was because why do the work when we hadn't solidified the plans? So we want to do things in conjunction and smart, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's in the point that Sarah had talked about, David, when you brought up the point, do we do something and then later on have to redo it? And you wouldn't want to do that. Yeah. So it's going to be you have a lot of work, to kind of break it out and plan it and to make sure that it's in line with your vision. So
When we submit these plans to you, do we get a little bit of grace because it's not our day job? Like, how thorough does this need to be?
oh, you have great,
Okay.
you have grace. Yeah,
Great.
don't, yeah.
Sarah, is there a way you could send us that slide individually of what we need to fill out? And then maybe by the end of meeting tonight, we can divide and conquer of,
It's actually
it's May 30th, it'd be by the next
It's
meeting.
actually an Excel spreadsheet template.
Oh, perfect.
Drop down menu.
Yep.
So and I have sent it to you. Do have it, or I can reset it.
Yeah, you can resend it to me. I didn't want to send it before
Right.
sending it confuse anyone.
Yeah.
Makes
Yep,
sense.
perfect.
And then to clarify, we're submitting all the projects we want specifically to be added to the next 10-year.
Well, in
For this year.
no, there's actually 2 different components to it.
Okay.
One for the next 10 years, 26 to 35 is one component to it. And then my understanding is, and there's some attached that'll be discussed later on, some desires in 2025 that haven't been approved, which will need a form that will be filled out. And in the form, you identify what year So then it'll just get, when I enter it all into our software, it'll end up pulling into 2025. So they'll be separated. But yes, so basically you're doing 11 years now.
Due by in the next month, right?
Yesterday.
All right. Yeah.
So Dan,
So wait a second. I'm not finding a problem. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Sounds like a totally reasonable.
Yeah, oh, reasonable. And let me kind of give a little bit the thing, is that it is more important to looking at your 25 and your 26. The remainder of it, if at least you put it in there out in the years, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, you could put one request for those future years broken up by years and avoid having to do a description in each component to it, and just say this is a phased approach, da 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 da.
right.
Because I need to have the money amounts that are in this plan to run the financial to see what the city would have to raise to be able to afford to be able to do this.
So could we potentially say like $500,000 for McKnight, 2026, $500,000 for McKnight, 2027, and not like break it down into what that entails?
No.
Is that-
There has to be some description to it,
Yeah.
but no, you don't have to say exactly what is happening each and every year. It would reference again the report. You have to have enough that, let's say, all of you are gone next year, that somebody were to pick up that piece, that they would have an idea of what that intention was to be doing, and enough to convey to city council so they understand your desire, because they're the ones who are ultimately going to approve or not approve.
Like realistically, you could probably do that for like 5 to 7 years out. But if you're doing it for right now, the whole model is based on the numbers that we have in real time now.
Fair.
So if we don't get those numbers right, it's gonna mess up the projection long-term. So you want us to get our foundation right so that it can build the model so he can predict the money that we'll need in the future. And basically, so more detail up front, less detail on the back end, but as realistic as possible.
So Dan, I got a question on some of the projects that we already have. Like for instance, in 2026, Casey Lake Open Air Shelter, we got 44,200. Is that already set aside for this project, or is this something that's got to be resubmitted?
So if you're okay with that's a project that you still desire,
Yes.
that's a part of the plan, and that 44,200 is good, nothing is needed. If, let's say, you decided not to do a project, then you would, send me information that says basically you can remove that project. Or, let's say Casey Lake Open Air Shelter, you're now thinking it's 60,000. Then we need to adjust that 44 to 60,000. So we're capturing as best we can the costs. So again, that's that 10-year look from.
Okay, then like for instance, we got, for Polar Park, we have that for the new playground equipment. We have that, for instance, at 191,000, which is earmarked for 2027. So if we have it here and we think that's okay, we don't have to change anything, or?
Don't have to change anything.
Okay.
And so
'Cause-
I'm just asking to look at that review right up in the back, make sure that that's as accurate as possible, that your cost is accurate as possible, and that this is a project that you still want. And if it is, there's nothing that needs to be done.
Yeah, 'cause I guess with some of the numbers that we do have in front of us, were those generated from Public Works, or how were those figures come about?
Unfortunately, I can't really answer that. For the most part, these were submitted by the prior community development director. Well, two of the
I was gonna say-
prior. Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah. So I believe there was some conversation with Public Works, but I don't know if there, to what degree. So I can't really answer that. I know that there was some communication that was going on between the two of them when it was submitted, but
Because I know there's no one on this commission right here that came up with these numbers. Somebody had to come up with these numbers according to what we were asking for, which is good. But like, for instance, on the one website, the one link that was sent to us this Friday from Sarah, some of the playground equipment for a couple of the parks right now is on sale. It's huge savings on a lot of that stuff. So that's why I was wondering if this was generated by Public Works or whoever came up with this. You know, some of this stuff, if we have the money, we know it's going to be 2 years out. Maybe it's something we can purchase now and then have it installed at that time or sooner.
obviously you have to be concerned about storage of something that you're buying ahead of time and that stuff. But if that's your desire onto it, and we'll stay on this Polar Park improvement, you may want to then put a part of the funding in 25, part of the funding in 26, part of the funding in 27.
Yeah, because my question was the money that we have allocated and the sheets in front of us for the different projects that we have projected for our 10-year plan all have some kind of a number attached to them.
Sure.
So,
I can speak to that too. Last year, the commission did talk about a lot of these projects, and you guys also came up with some of these numbers. Like, so for instance, the observation deck bridge at Southwood, that was something that was developed here, and the cost. So
Yeah.
it was partly the commission, partly our former community development director, partly Public Works, all coming together to make these numbers.
right,
But
okay.
do we think the projected numbers are like valid and accurate? We don't need to, if we want to proceed with the plans that are currently projected, those numbers are good. What do you think?
That's hard to say, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
They were probably like over a year.
Well, a year ago.
So plan on.
I would just maybe rather than us get stuck on the exact number, and I know what you're saying, Dave, like you want to have a good estimate so that we can project out.
Right.
I would say like going higher than lower is going to be important.
Always
because
better.
There's a good chance that all these playgrounds are coming from China, and now there's 114% tariff on that. So, go high, and then like we'll get to the nitty gritty on those years that we get those approved. Like as we talk about 2025, like we're going to get real numbers, and it may be lower than what we're projecting out, but I wouldn't get stuck on it now because it doesn't matter. Even if we project something's $90,000 in 10 years, it might be $500,000. Like we can't, if we spend all our time on that, we're never going to get anything done.
Right.
Can I ask about, what is the open air shelter at Casey Lake?
I don't know.
What are we talking about?
We don't know. That might be a collaboration with Public Works.
It is a Public Works thing. They're looking at either removing it, which is the one near the back parking lot, because at least for now, it's dangerous. It's getting really old.
Which open air shelter is it?
There's one,
In the back ball fields?
yes.
Oh, okay.
They're also looking at replacing it, so that is a Public Works.
But no, none of us talked about that. That was probably from Public Works.
Right.
So that's where we can go in and say, do we want to, that's what Dave was saying. Do we want to do that or no?
Yeah, and so again, the action part of this is coming after we finish this part. So just know that we'll get to make some of those decisions in like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Thanks
bet.
for
And
explaining this.
again, if you ever need any additional information, send me an email or get a hold of Sarah. Sarah knows where I'm at. She'll get me. But no, always a pleasure to come here, and anytime you want me to come here, I'd be more than willing to do it.
It's always a great job when you come.
And Sarah, stop doing that.
That's why they pay me the big bucks,
It's in her blood.
No, actually, sincerely, I actually appreciate it. So, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
She's very good at it, isn't she?
Yes.
Laura usually talks me off the ledge sometimes, but I get on my pedestal sometimes.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you again.
Thanks, Dan.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you again. I've never seen that little.
Yeah, I might have done that. I can, yeah, I'll send.
Recapping goals.
I'm like, I need to. It's in the thing.
In your email that you got this right.
Ooh.
Thanks, Dan.
She's cool. She's cool.
My role is not important on this commission.
Yeah, she.
It's like when I
Look,
said
even
we still have
Ben's is
the
on.
February meeting or March
Ghost.
meeting, whatever. Wow. Okay, my mic has been off the whole time.
Oh, has it?
Yep.
Let's
And
just
so-
redo the whole thing.
Remember, you got the ejection button there where you can cut us all off. And
Okay. Wow. All right. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, so like I mentioned a couple of times, Sarah and I, well, the Sarahs and I, which is what I'm calling you both now. I hope that's okay. Put together kind of like a informal list of potential projects for the Parks Commission, which is coming from the meeting last month. And so it looks kind of formal, but it's literally called an informal list. Like, we just tried to tie it back to the CIP for the city manager and the finance director. So if y'all want me to like clarify any of this or answer any questions, let me know. But the top kind of 4 priority projects were Polar Park, Casey Lake, urban ecology, and then the smaller parks where we talked about adding low cost, but high impact elements. And so Sarah Zahradka went through and found a bunch of different possible playground elements for each one. And so maybe what we do is we just talk through, we start with Polar, maybe talk about what we are ideally looking for in revamping Polar, and then just note that we have 90,000 budgeted in 2026 for that park. So it looks like, Sarah, you have,
I found some deals.
Yeah.
I want to preface this by saying that I scoured the internet and I went to commercial places, but these are companies we've never used in the city. So whether Public Works would let us get away with it or not, I don't know. But from everything I read, it looks pretty good. And I was like, I'm assuming this means this is the non-assembled price, right? Mm-hmm. So we would my thought maybe with Polar Park is like, could we do, a community? We've done that before where it's like 2 days. And a lot of times someone from the playground equipment company may come out depending on how that works. And then with Public Works and maybe the community, we could shave off some costs to put somewhere else. But that being said, I don't have approval for these. So just because you like it doesn't mean necessarily it's going forward. My idea was to get a bunch of ideas and put visuals to it. So as we talk about it, you guys could say, I really like that. And then Sarah might be able to go deeper and say, okay, here's what I found at companies we have agreements or whatever. So that's my 2 cents on my visuals and my prices. So I did include links for you though, Sarah, on all of them.
so it looks like you went for like a middle range, like couple of different options for activities, but would meet the needs of some younger kids and some slightly older kids. So is there anything else that you took into consideration that you want to highlight?
Well, one thing I want to consider is we did replace the swing sets at Polar Park not that long ago, within the last 5 years. So it's not a complete playground overhaul. And I think did that one have a merry-go-round? Can't remember because we replaced the springs on those or whatever. But so I do think we can probably come under that 90, depending on whether Public Works with mulch and curbing and stuff, what that costs. But my thought was this isn't the kind of park that would get the $100,000 play sets. So these looked pretty nice for the value. I know my kids like monkey bars. I think things where you can climb and reach are really good for older kids. Of course, everyone likes a curly slide. The one on the right, I thought had a little bit more for everybody. The tubes, the big slides, the climbing elements. I thought something like that could be great. And then there's 1,000 colors, so we just choose whatever color scheme goes with the swing set that's already there. Usually blues, yeah.
Yeah, I went on the site earlier today.
Oh, good.
And they have 4 different reasonably priced. They're actually on sale right now. Different playground equipments like what you had
Yeah.
here. So I went on both these.
Oh, good.
And I really liked what I saw there.
But he seemed really good, actually.
So, but then it'd be one of those things we would kind of, I think we should have Public Works input a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, sir, I'm all for public build.
Yeah.
And if that's what we have to do, then to get something like this done, I agree. I didn't see too many things for more of the older children.
Yeah.
So there again, I think we should look at maybe some more of their equipment rather than saying, oh, I want this one tonight, being they do have other options. Something that we can look at and say, yeah, kind of pick and choose. And so we have some pricing. And then maybe someone from the commission here reaching out to the company to get better ideas of what we can and can't do. That's kind of what we
Yeah.
did years back.
Well, I think maybe it's a conjunction of like, Sarah, if you might want to research this company and maybe reach out and ask, okay, this is the price, but what is shipping? What is freight? What is construction? Or, is it possible for Public Works Department to do this without, someone on site? Maybe just kind of get more of the information so we could have more of the totality. The other thing, Dave, I would suggest is because I did put a lot of these other elements for older kids on here, we could take a look and maybe it's
Yeah, them
a
too.
play structure plus a gaga pit or something else.
Yep.
I'd also argue, Polar Park is a little bit hidden. It's a little bit tucked away. I would say, like, while I want things for older kids there as well, I think it's important in the play structure to kind of have a little bit of A and a little bit of B.
Yep.
I also think that may not be the park that we want to funnel all the money into just because it's not as accessible to the rest of the public. It's not, the parking isn't as easy that, and then Sarah had brought up a point of potentially, could we make this park more accessible, which I thought was a really fair point as well. So, because we don't actually have any accessible playgrounds.
Right.
Does this total include the surface that we have to provide?
No, and that's, what I was going to bring up too, is if we're replacing the parks, I read through the whole ADA manual for playgrounds, but we would have to make it accessible, so therefore we'd have to change, we can't have mulch and all that anymore, so it would have to, that would increase the
I
cost.
thought mulch was ADA accessible, just not the rubber mulch.
It has to be that bouncy stuff,
There's a couple different materials, but I can provide that too.
okay.
That's news, because that's like $100,000 for soft surfacing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so maybe what we do is keeping the May 30th deadline front and center for this. I think we just, as a group, we need to decide, are we okay with roughly this idea of these playgrounds, roughly this price range? And then we can ask you, Sarah, can you fill in the things that are missing? And then our next meeting is before that deadline. So we could have drafts of the CIP plans put together already. And then at that meeting, we can say, are we ready to actually submit this and move forward?
Yeah.
Does that sound okay to people?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think we need to do a motion or anything, but does anybody have any oppositions to generally this playground overall vibe price range for Polar Park?
Nope, good to proceed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll proceed with that as our guideline, and you'll fill in the gaps for not an all-inclusive playground at this time at Polar, just what we would need to do to bring it up to where we need it to be.
And then do we need to assign who's going to write the little the little things? Because I feel like this needs to be a divide and conquer, so not one person is sitting all day writing a bunch of these. Whose park is Polar Park? Who owns Polar Park?
Jump in on that.
Could I ask the question that we assign who's writing the CIPs after we
Okay.
do all of
Yep.
the parks?
Yep.
So we understand the full scope of it,
Perfect.
right?
Yep. Great idea.
Okay. So if we're good, we're going to move on to Casey. We're going to talk about adding ninja play equipment around the walking path. We do have this budgeted for $100,000 in 2027. The park revitalization, and then it lists Casey Lake Park active playground at 500,000 in 2027. So is that talking about Janie's specifically?
I don't think that needs improvement yet.
And then the one thing I didn't take into account here is that open air shelter. That's listed for next year, 2026.
I can make a motion to remove that, as I've never seen anyone in it.
Yeah, so that would, if we decide not to move forward with that and not prioritize that, that would free up some money for 2026.
I second the motion.
Which one are we moving?
I'd just like to say motion. There's a budget item for either next year or 2027 to spend 40-something thousand on Casey Lake shelter
Oh,
fixing.
okay.
And
Yep.
so we're saying like, just take it down versus
yeah.
rebuild it because
Okay.
it's not in a place people.
And that's not budgeted though for a couple of years, so. it's
Yeah,
not
that's what
something we
she's
need
saying.
to-
But he's saying we still want to like say if we want to remove something from that line item to take it out of the projected budget.
This is the little shelter. Will that shelter be missed? I know, do people use that for baseball anymore or softball?
No.
The fields,
That field doesn't get rented out for softball. That back, it's where the Army Park used to be. It's back there and then, yeah.
And then back. Okay, my other question is, ninja equipment around the walking path. Weren't we all in agreement that we don't want to space it out?
Yeah, no.
That it's gonna be one unit
Kind of like Army Park, like in an area. Yeah.
in an area. Okay, the wording of this just threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, we can easily fix the wordings
Near
to,
the walking.
yeah, to be more specific.
Yeah.
So near,
Near.
yeah.
Yeah, that was throwing me off. And then, active playground at 500,000 in 2027. Where,
I think those are I don't know what the reutilization is, but the active playground would be the Ninja Park. But
Oh,
I think if they're talking about two separate things, Laura, I didn't look at that closely.
so
sorry.
if you look in the descriptions of all the stuff from the CIP are in the
Yeah.
packet.
Yep.
So the reutilization was something that was actually proposed by Ben last year, was to remove Casey Field 3 to open a green space or have a soccer field because Casey Field 3
Ah.
doesn't get used. And then, yeah, it looks like
Okay.
the active playground is the ninja course.
thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
Okay, let's talk about that in two phases. Do we want to make it a point to change up that field?
I think it's a great idea.
Field?
Okay, so it's where the Army Park used to be. So it's back by that. Okay, sorry, where the fishing dock is. If you
Yeah.
walk around that side there,
Yeah.
there's a baseball field that's basically just a fence, and then there's a shelter in the outfield. That's the field. So it's not where it's basically the furthest from the two parking lots
Okay.
in the back corner by that neighborhood.
Okay.
I'd say, especially as we're talking about taking out that shelter, it gives even more reason to reutilize that field. If it's big enough for a soccer field, I think that would be amazing.
Sounds like it could be for at least a mini pitch. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if we can just leave it grass and not like do what we're talking about at McKnight, where it's just like, where kind of leave it what it is, but like make it, maybe we could actually put in some those metal soccer nets that are grounded in or something. And then, I don't know. I can't imagine that costs $100,000 to do, but
So it's is it just, I'm not
removing the
familiar with
fencing
removing fencing.
and the shelter.
Okay. And then we would just leave it green and possibly by goals.
Yeah, and I think I've seen ones that are like soccer goal / football post. I don't know if that makes sense, but like,
Well, at the school, we used to use portable soccer goals, nets and stuff. So it's easier to move around. They stay there almost all year, but they got wheels and stuff, so you can move them over to maintain the fields if necessary. So that would be my recommendation rather than having something permanent.
yeah.
Then we could utilize them somewhere else if need be.
Because we could just basically use that whole segment of the park as that revitalization. Like we could basically redo the ninja part there. We also talked about doing the ninja part over by the parking lot. So it's more accessible. That was the other thing, because there's a swing set and a merry-go-round over there. We talked about doing it over there too. But it could be cool if there's room, because it is weird because it loops out. Maybe, wherever we decide to do it, I think it'd be great to tackle that all in one project.
Yeah.
And I think that would get used a lot.
If there's room in the area by the third ball field, I think it could also be useful to add another volleyball sand court section. That the one that's by 17th Avenue, the current volleyball net, that's occupied almost all the time in the summer. And I've seen people bring up their own volleyball nets and set it up in the back area of Casey Lake.
I don't know if that area
Volleyball.
would have the room. I would guess that having that volleyball net accessible, because I feel like people are always using that as they're barbecuing or as they're doing something else. And
Fair.
that the problem with that corner of the park is you're kind of isolated and you're far from either parking lot. I don't dislike the idea though. Maybe that goes near where the other playground is or something, or we see how much it costs.
Would it have to be sand?
What else?
I mean, just grass, because are people, when people are playing, are they playing volleyball? Are they playing badminton? Are they playing like other net sports?
Well, the people that I've seen set up, they're in the grass. So yeah, I think something's better than nothing. I think grass would be fine.
Okay. So we could we could pitch it as a flex pitch, right?
Yeah.
Like you can,
Badminton, volleyball.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we just free it up. We don't have to maintain, we don't have to spend more.
I'm into that.
But we still, and I know that, our Hmong community, they spend a lot of time playing badminton and also volleyball. So just and it actually is kind of ideal, like tucked in that back, because you can have it be, like you have your party, you have your game, whatever over there. So if we're okay with it, maybe we remove the fencing and the shelter. It's a flex mini pitch for whatever.
Yeah.
You don't have to line it, right?
I wouldn't think so. With the volleyball, would you want permanent posts? And the reason I bring that up is because technically we don't allow people to stake in our grass now. Like when you see them in the grass, they're not supposed to be because of our irrigation through there. So they could easily hit lines. Yeah, through the whole park. So that would be something to consider, and not that we couldn't think of that at the time when we're going through this process and have Public Works go out and market and see what we're working with.
Yep.
And maybe give recommendations to folks that want to bring their own.
I would
Set up?
definitely do permanent then, because if you do temporary, then people are definitely going to think temporary is acceptable.
Yeah.
So I would do permanent.
I concur.
But
I know.
yes, I agree. The permanent poles would be the option if that were the route to go.
Yeah.
But also, do we want people playing soccer on a pitch with 2 permanent volleyball poles on it?
Or these, sorry, are we talking about, I was thinking if there's enough room. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm not familiar with the space, so I was.
No, you're good. I don't actually know how big a soccer field is. It's been a while, but I feel like it's a big enough
Pretty big, yeah.
Soccer's
I
big.
don't know.
I don't know. Is there space to do?
If we got rid of both fields 3 and 4, probably.
Don't we have a park? Well,
We'd have-
say we could does the volleyball thing have to be written into this specific plan if it's 2027? Because don't we have a park meeting in Casey? We could walk it in June or whenever we do that. Just take a look, and
I think that'd be good.
maybe Public Works could come to that too and just give us their feedback.
I can certainly add that in here, and that can always be discussed later too, but I can add it for now just as a note that we were.
Perfect.
Talking
Are we
about
okay
it.
with that?
Absolutely.
We'll remove fence. I'm sorry, you weren't done.
No, I was done. You're good.
Okay. Removing the fencing and the shelter, and then
Where exactly, because it's been a while since we've been at Casey, where's this shelter at that we're looking? Is that
By
one
the
that's-
bridge to the hockey rink. It's in the back corner.
So from the new shelter, is it across the park, or is it kind of in the middle
So
there?
the lake is here.
Yeah.
The new building's right here.
Yeah,
The path goes this way.
yeah,
And so there's the big field right here.
Yeah.
It's dead smack in the middle of the park. If
Okay.
you dropped a pin in the middle of all of Casey Lake, it is the hardest spot to get to and the least accessible because you have to get there by
Okay.
foot on grass. So,
okay, I'm on board with that.
but I say even taking the shelter down, I'd say let's keep the picnic tables or something, because if people are around there, we're going to need benching and seating and, yeah.
Okay, so ideally, we're gonna plan on moving forward, removing fencing in the shelter, and then tentatively or in the future, we're gonna talk about possibility of adding volleyball field space with permanent poles and then a mini pitch over there with what makes sense. But we're gonna wait to make that decision until we're all physically in the space to talk about it.
Right.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe calling it the reutilization is the best word for it.
You're right. Okay, is there any more for Casey that people want to talk about?
Did we resolve the emotion?
We don't.
No.
I
Not
said
gonna-
motion.
Did you
but
pull it off?
She-
Okay.
So what about the hockey rinks?
That's, I saw that on the plan for down the road. It's like 215,000, what they estimate.
110, 20, and 200.
Are we talking about a new one, or are you talking about,
Rebuilding them, redoing the ones that we have.
oh,
That's
Please.
budgeted for when? What year?
In here.
That was budgeted.
Um,
1 to 5 years, so, and this was, I'm looking at an older one because I'm sharing my paperwork with
What about our CIP?
It's 2028.
2028.
So we can talk about that. I would say we talk about that later because
Okay.
based on our 4 priority projects for the next 2 years, that's not a part of it, and it can be future us's problem.
yeah, yep.
Great.
Okay, so we chatted about hockey rinks. Any other Casey things that people want to talk about?
Now, we talked about the playground improvements. Now, that's not talking about like Janie's playground or the other one? Okay, fine. That's it then.
You don't foresee any in the next couple of years?
I mean, it's 11 years old, so I think we just have to keep our eye on it and make repairs. But honestly, I got to say that I think that E-Trex decking is held up better than a lot of those metal posts. I mean, it faded a little bit, but the one thing the playground company said is we could paint it at some point if we wanted to, if we feel like it's getting too faded. But I feel like that park has held up better than most of those metal ones.
Great for 11 years old.
Yeah.
How much use it gets?
Yeah.
Well, it's used quite a bit.
I do have a question though. So in the CIP currently, we have that Casey Lake Park active playground set for 2027. Is that something you're still wanting to move to 2025? Because that was kind of what we were proposing, right? In the document that the 3 of us worked on was moving it, which we could propose that. That's not like it's off the table or anything, but it is currently in the CIP for 2027. So I just want to make sure I have my notes.
I think maybe, I mean, my thought is the reutilization is actually the thing we could do in 2025, like remove those posts, then see what we're working with before we go and put in that play area. That would be my suggestion, is like we stagger that a little bit, because we also don't have McKnight on here, and we're going to have to talk bigger about that since that's a priority as well. So I would say maybe we leave the reutilization on there for 2025, like have Public Works remove the net, remove the shelter, and then maybe we can buy some soccer things, goals, posts.
Back to your question, so keeping it for 2027 is probably,
Maybe leaving the ninja part for 2026, probably 20,
I would say 26.
26.
That's
Okay.
what my gut says.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the Ninja Park,
Yes.
26.
Pitch 25, because we could get moving on some of it at least, right? Get it prepped.
Yep.
So who then would want to be like the spokesperson for this? We'll
Ben
have
wants
think
to.
of that once we get to that point.
Ben channeled into me and said he wants to do that.
We,
I know we're going to come back to that, but
like, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to write that, or we can have,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It can
we
be
could
a
do it.
group project,
Yeah.
Perfect.
honestly.
I'd rather write them down at the end so I know what I own.
But we will get that information to you.
Of course.
Okay. Any other
We
Casey?
could have a little subcommittee for the whole
yeah.
process.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, urban.
Hold on. Did you get your Casey questions answered?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Great. All right, urban ecology park. So this was, we talked about adding resting structures, picnic tables, benches, chairs, play elements. We have these listed for $100,000 in 2029. But I believe it was the commission's want to move that to a sooner action item
And less money.
and less money. Yeah.
So I gave you a whole little thing of where my mind was. I know, Dave, you were concerned about playgrounds, but this was where my head was when I talk about nature, something that looks like it could. And I walk past this park a lot, but they did just clear a lot of brush on the side between South or County Road B and the trail. And I don't know if that's what we own, but that would actually be maybe the perfect spot because you could see it from the road, like, and be like, oh, that's cool. I want to walk past there. Yeah. And then the benches or something could be on the other side. But there's not a lot of room. So this isn't something that would potentially take up a lot of space, just something that could be fun. I did think these little climbing with the rocks was kind of a cute thing to like. These are more expensive, but just like even the stones that look like they kind of blend in, or the log. I don't know. This was where my head was at, with something that blends, but like kids can use their imagination to make it more fun.
Yeah, I love something like any of these, but especially things they can jump up on and jump from one to the next. They love that kind of stuff. I'm looking at the top left, the one right underneath it, and the log they can crawl through. These are all awesome and easy. And even a wooden, well, I guess, is this?
It doesn't have to be limited to this, but I know there was we went in swirls last time about playground equipment being there, and I wanted to be clear about where my head was with what that looked like.
I love the one at the top too, top left.
It sounds like this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So when do we want to try and move on this in 2025 or 2026? Like that early? Is that something we want to do?
I'd love to, but that's me. I know it's not necessarily a high priority compared to Polar Park or something as priorities go, but it would be low hanging fruit and a low cost, I think. And the area is already cleared, so I think it'd be a matter of ordering the equipment, getting it approved by council, and then they could put it in and we could have it potentially for the summer for people who are riding their bikes.
Yeah.
Could we do a small portion this year? Kind of like how we're thinking of doing like a small addition to each park. Could we have that for this park rather than do the whole thing?
I don't think it has to be that expensive. My fear of breaking something this small into two pieces is that it's going to get lost in translation. I'd say if you're only spending $25,000 on a park, like just do it and get it done with so it's there.
It'll be around 25 rather than 100.
Depending on what you guys choose. Obviously that rock wall thing was more, but if you're just getting like the log and the steps, like again, those are 2,000, 3,000, like they're not that much, plus the bench or like a picnic table and probably a concrete slab for that. I would guess that you're looking, unless you do the climbing thing, you're looking at a pretty low cost.
Okay. Yeah, if the cost is lower and it's small, I agree. I think just getting it done.
We don't have a lot of room for stuff there.
Yeah.
So it's not like you could probably, if you don't do the climbing thingy, I like the slide, but where I was thinking that doesn't work. So like just the stones and the log, like those kind of things, like I think we could.
Okay. So
Can
Sarah,
I note something too?
Yeah.
Just for whoever's going to put this like proposal together. So we got updated quotes for the benches and picnic tables with concrete slabs last year. And
Okay.
like for a park bench, we're looking at $2,000 a piece.
Okay.
Picnic tables are about 1,900, which is weird that it's cheaper, but it is.
Table it is.
Yeah. So we'll just consider that.
I think that would be great because then, and I do think as we look at this, we should talk with the DNR. Like, is there a point at which they need to know we're doing something along the trail? Also, their sign is like wretched and old that's right there. Like maybe they could replace that in conjunction with if we did something. But
Sure.
it would be, I think if we could make this a 2025, it would be something easy to do.
Yeah.
And maybe even tied in with our wayfinding, like maybe we could put a different sign there pointing towards downtown because you can see it pretty prominently behind the Holiday now that they cleared it out.
Sure.
Sarah, do you know if the spot that she's talking about that's cleared out is something that we have access to?
And it's so funny because we were talking about that this morning with Public Works. We're figuring it out.
Okay.
Cool.
So I will get confirmation on that and email that out, but
I just walked there like today and I was like, oh, this is the perfect spot. I didn't notice it before because all the brush. That they cut it all out.
Okay, so we want to move forward 2025, roughly $25,000. We're going like not big structure. We're doing the couple different play elements, and you're going to get back to us on if that space works or not.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Any other discussion on urban ecology?
Nope.
No? Okay, so smaller parks. This is specifically just talking about adding gaga pits or some,
Like this page of different, like there's a couple pages of different,
Yeah.
like kind of little activity things. It could be between the nature play and the back.
I love this spider climber so
Yeah.
much.
this thing, oh, yes, and those are,
Spider climber. You know, there's one over by Maplewood, you know, kind of by.
See, that's not as expensive as you think it would be. I'm like, that's a great deal to put in.
This is, that appeals to the older kids. You
Yeah.
know, that lets older
Kids love that.
like that.
I like it too, but I get stuck.
okay, so here's what we need to do. We need to decide what we like and where we want to put it.
Cool.
And I think we all want to try and do this in 2025.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so are there any specific parks that come to mind where you think we should?
Could we start with the Gaga pit? Because I feel like that's a little different than the playground equipment. I'm a little racked, but like Housey, now that we have that green open space, could be a really fun one for that. Because it's kind of a, like, I think I go play pickleball. My kids would probably love to go over there and use the Gaga pit. Casey is obviously big enough for one of these, but the problem is I would want to put it near the playground, and I don't. Maybe just Casey's a hold on this. I was also thinking like Northwood. This could be good if we find a good place for this.
Well, with Northwood, we do have monies kind of set aside for that. Let me see here, whatever year it is, to kind of redo that whole park. And I think at that time would be a great time to move that playground equipment and make it more ADA
Yeah.
accessible, because we have to do that. The shelter should be redone. And then we could incorporate some of this other stuff, like the Gaga pit and stuff like that.
Well, this, I think this is movable.
It's movable.
And it's a way to show some love to
Northwood,
Yeah.
since it's going to be a minute.
We did want to focus on Northwood.
Yeah.
That was a priority before, and then McKnight kind of budged it out of the way. So I think this is a way to show some love to that park.
Well, I'm not disagreeing. I think we
can move
need,
it or incorporate.
but if
it
we get ones that, I have two questions then, yeah. With the Gaga pits, now we used to have them at the school, they were out in the grass areas, but we used to have sand and stuff underneath it, an area with sand. So being it's for the public, is there any kind of padding that they need underneath the boards for the Gaga pits?
I don't know the answer to that question.
That's something we would have to check. And being they're portable, maybe we could put one or two up inside the hockey rinks.
Well, that would be the most feasible because you put it on grass or something, we start getting rain and stuff. Because it looks like they got connection pads.
They have several types.
Yeah, but if you put that in the grass area, I don't think it's going to be as effective as putting it in the hockey rink.
I think it makes sense to put it in the hockey rink. if we can.
Yeah, being if
Use
it's,
that though, like to skate around in the summer, or no?
no. They use it in the winter to play hockey a lot. There's only a couple people I've ever seen just free skating, but it's usually people playing hockey in there.
How big is the Gaga ball thing? Could it be put in the center and you could still like skate
Yeah.
it?
I would guess it's like a little smaller than that row of chairs, like
Yeah.
maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of chairs, like that. If you drew a circle
They're
around
about
those.
15 feet in diameter.
So it could potentially go in like the center of the hockey rink
Yeah.
if someone wants to.
I would think it would
go
fit in there fine, yeah.
Oh, but wouldn't it be removed for winter?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Good, yeah.
It'd be removed. It's
It'd be
removable.
removable.
Yeah, because you don't want to play hockey around that.
No, it's,
Or skate.
yeah.
'Cause I'm trying to think of like other high use, because Silver, I don't know that there's room for this. So you couldn't do this at Silver. Casey has the room for it, but we're already spending a lot of, I mean, this isn't a very expensive item, but maybe this goes, I mean, I don't know age range of kids, but like if you're saying the volleyball is getting used a lot, like this could get used if it was up in that area too by Casey. That would be the only other park I could think of. Colby Hills has the area for this, but there's not high enough traffic. I don't think it's worth putting it in there.
Right.
Well, we also don't have to like equip, we don't have to become like Gaga Pit Central.
Yeah,
either
it's
in
true. We
one
just
spot.
put in two
So
and
like we can do two and we can
Yeah.
see how that goes.
Cool.
And the awesome part is since they are portable, if it's a flop somewhere, we can try it somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know?
great idea.
So it just becomes a portable resource. So are we okay with doing Housie and Northwood for now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
We're gonna see how that goes. Okay, so
Where's it going on Northwood or Housey?
that's what I was gonna say.
And the empty
Grass
field.
area.
The grass area used to be the ball field,
Yep. That whole.
Okay.
It's like perfect. It's like flat and just.
just west of the,
So they're just going to play on they're just going to play on grass.
That's what they do at schools. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Northwood will be in the hockey rink. Okay, so some of the other smaller things, did you have a vision for that?
Well, a couple of like, I live by Colby Hills. Is that my park? I don't remember. Colby Hills, the structure is really, it's new, but it's really small. And like my kids, I don't see a lot of kids playing on it. I think it's just too young. I think something like one of these spinners or even monkey bars or something like that would be great to add in. I love this spider climber, and Colby Hills has that whole weird grass area that we do flood, but I never see anyone using it. So my question would be, do we need to keep flooding that, waste the water and the environmental impact? And maybe we could put this little spider climber there, which would give kids, because it's got a really big park shelter that's beautiful. Like we have that really big pergola. And I just feel like, well, yeah, your kids aren't going to play on that playground because it's so small. So I would love to see something added there. And that spider climber could be really cool for that space.
Do those need like a special foundation? We'll need to find that out.
I would-
Okay.
I would
yeah, that would.
speculate they would.
Cement, if anything.
What'd you say, Dave?
We'd only need a little bit of cement.
Oh, I don't think they'd.
I don't think you can have cement.
I
on
don't
it.
think they'd
You gotta
fly with
consider
that.
where they're going to fall from, right?
Well, I'm just thinking to support the poles.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
No, the rest should be chips.
I don't think they can do chips anymore, can they?
I think we need to look into this chip.
Yep.
Mulch.
Yeah, I'll send you what I have. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Send it to me. I just don't understand how that's feasible. But
All I know is at the elementary school where I work, it's all soft and except for the chips on the side, but everything else is soft.
Yeah.
It's soft padding.
I have this balancing.
And I know how deep we had to go with Janie's. We had to go down like 3-4 feet.
Couple feet.
Yep.
yeah, that's cool.
I think something like that near the, in Casey somewhere would be amazing, especially if it's kind of near the Ninja Park. It's sort of a smaller version of, you know,
Yeah, I pulled those out for the Ninja. So maybe when we break down Casey eventually, we could look at those.
See, yeah.
And I also like the natural rocks climbing. That's this one here.
yeah.
That may not fit in as seamlessly at some of the other parks, except maybe.
Well, in that area that you're talking about over at Colby Hills,
Oh, yeah.
that and maybe the spider climber, just a couple of those. It's more for the older kids, and the other ones are, I know it's across the road, but the younger kids would be on the one playground. I could see parents sitting in the shelter looking both ways, you know.
I would say my vote would be if you're going to put in the spider climber, then do that little orbital spinner because it's got the ropes and it kind of matches, and kids love to make themselves sick spinning on things.
Oh, yeah.
Colby?
That's what I would say is if you're going to do two things at Colby, then do those two because we do have quite a large space. We could probably easily fit them both. And then it kind of adds a nice little element if you're renting that shelter out. Or maybe we give people a reason to rent that shelter out more. But
Oh, this is.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a spinner.
Both of those.
Yeah, and they kind of go together. They kind of
Yeah.
work together.
Okay,
That makes
so
sense.
we have small scale additions coming to Housing Northwood, Colby. Are there any other parks?
What
Does that
about
include benches? Are we including benches with this? Because Southwood may need a few benches.
That's gonna be part of maintenance. They got 2 benches that need to be, I was gonna bring it up later.
They're gonna, okay.
But
my only other question, I haven't been there in a while, is Dorothy, or is that high traffic's fine? It's just
Dorothy
cute.
seems
Okay.
fine.
Perfect structure, and I don't think it.
And Silver's got a lot of things. Casey has a lot of things. What other parks are we missing here?
Tower,
Urban ecology might get this.
tower.
I feel like that. Oh, Tower.
I feel like Tower has a good variety. I mean, if we want to
Okay.
put something there, but
Is that yours?
yeah.
Yeah, it's up to you. I'm good with it.
Okay.
Okay, well, why don't we remain in a feasible, like, we could actually pull this off in 2025? And so, for 2025, we have a Gaga pit at Housie, a Gaga pit at Northwood, a spider climber, and a Starship orbiter at Colby Hills. For 20, when do you want to add the playground at Polar Park? Sorry, is that 2025 or 20?
It's probably going to have to be 26,
Okay.
but we start it now, maybe? We get approval for it?
Okay, but in 25, we're gonna get the fencing and the shelter removed from Casey Lake.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so our 2025, the CIP templates that we need to write are the removing the fencing and shelter of Casey, adding a Gaga pit at Housie, adding a Gaga pit at Northwood, and then adding spider climber and Starship orbiter at Colby Hills.
Aren't we adding nature to urban ecology?
Yes, thank you. And then adding roughly $25,000 of nature play equipment to urban ecology, with the caveat that we need to know if the space that has been cleared is a space that we can use and put stuff in. But we can write up the plan as if we can.
Yeah.
And then if we can't, we'll just modify.
Yeah.
Just throwing this out there because it's low cost. And I forgot about Tower. Like, would we put a Gaga pit in there too? It's close to the high school. It's close to the elementary school. Like, it's far enough distance from Housie and Northwood that maybe it would be a nice option.
We do, I was thinking we do have Gaga pits at Housie and Northwood, which are relatively close.
Yeah.
Don't know.
I'd like to see how
space-wise
they-
would work out at Tower,
At the top corner,
like north.
the northeast corner.
Oh, okay.
So basketball's on this side. Is
Is it flat enough and there's
Don't know.
enough space around trees? I'm hesitant. I'd want to see the
maybe let's like check it out, because I think that it'd be nice for the north side of town to have something, and because that's between an elementary school and the high school, like there's a lot of kids probably roaming around.
So maybe what we do is we write up a rough plan,
Yeah.
and then we check it out in between,
add one to.
possibly add one to Tower. but we
Question-
need a
question
little bit
mark.
of Space.
And are we adding benches or picnic tables to any of these parks as well? I figure might as well just add one, and then if we don't,
I think we want to look at the inventory and see what we have, because like Casey is quite a bit. I mean, they don't in that area that we're talking about, the field, but we wouldn't want to add those till we finish everything. Northwood, I don't have a good recollection whether there's benches and stuff in the mid part that
I
isn't
didn't think
really.
there was a lot in the south part. Granted,
There's that shelter in the
yeah,
north part.
But yeah, no, there's not really like anywhere to sit. over.
yeah. I think
be a
a
good idea.
picnic table and a bench would
Yeah.
be good for Northwood.
Okay.
And picnic tables are cheaper than benches for some reason.
Save that $100.
Yep. Picnic tables for all.
Okay, what if, Tower, you're hesitant, but if we've.
I'm game to do the request, and then if it doesn't work out,
Would you add like 2 benches by it?
They have a shelter right in between. That's pretty nice. That's pretty
Yeah.
new.
But I like the idea of adding a bench by the Gaga. So should we add a bench to Housie too then?
Should we
Do they have one at that far end?
those in the other 2 parks and see how?
Probably, because we don't want to become, I just said we didn't want to become the Gaga Pit Central.
I don't think 3 Gagas is excessive, is it?
So maybe we just do the Gaga Pit, but we don't do a bench there yet, because if it's a flop, then we just have a
Okay.
random bench.
Okay.
And we can't move
That's
that.
fair. But if it's for Northwood, I'm still gonna have the bench though, because we were thinking about doing the Gaga and the hockey.
Yes. we're
Now that I
still gonna
remember.
do it. Yeah, and those benches would be good around the hockey rink anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 5. We have, my brain's turning to mush.
Removal of
Removing fencing and shelter, Casey. Urban ecology, natural play area. Housey Gaga pit, Northwood Gaga pit, Tower, possibly Gaga pit. That Northwood request would also include a picnic table and a bench. And then Colby Hill, Spider Climber, Starship Orbiter. Would that need benches?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, actually, because the shelter has a ton of seating, so you just couldn't sit on the same side, but you can see. That's fine.
Perfect.
Aren't there 6?
Yeah, there's 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
and we're sure that people aren't using that. So I sometimes get a little worried about it's hard to find like nice open spots to throw a ball or play football.
The problem is it's not big enough to like play soccer or do something, but I drive past it almost every day and I have only ever seen one person and their dog was pooping on it. So
So, yeah.
people walk their animals through it.
Where you throw a football or,
It's weirdly like a lot of space, but not enough for like, I wouldn't go there to throw a baseball because someone's fence is right there. So the likeliness of your ball going over the person's.
depressed, right? It's kind of lower than the road.
No. They flood it.
Maybe.
Colby.
They flood it for like a ice rink. So we just wouldn't be able to flood it anymore. But again, I never see anyone ice skating there. And I pass it.
And our seasons have been really short the last few
Yeah,
years.
it's true.
So
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. For the sake of time, are we okay moving forward to our next agenda item?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So, I believe Rachel,
I'm so sorry. Should we assign who has?
yeah, because we did say we were going to do that.
I can do Casey.
Okay.
And
I'll do ecology.
I'll do Northwood as well.
Okay.
How about this? I'll do urban ecology and then I will write out the ones for McKnight in separate entities.
That's a good idea.
Should I write up the one for the Gaga at Housey?
Sure, that'd be great. Okay, so that leaves, I can do the Colby Hills,
Okay.
but I'm missing one, aren't I?
Tower?
Tower, yep.
I can do that too.
Are you sure?
Not that hard.
Okay.
That's why I picked her. She was
Dave?
gung ho.
Dave, do you want to write up the future ones for the 3rd Street and downtown? I'll do McKnight.
Yeah, I can write up something.
Just for future, like, I know those aren't going to be like the next couple years, but just so that we have them for that 2035 plan. You and I can divide up that HGA. I'll do, because I'm going to write McKnight probably in 5 different parts, maybe more.
Yeah.
Putting the parking lot in though, guys.
Okay.
Ingrid, you need help with housing, let me know. Okay. We can work it together. That might be effective too. Okay.
Sara Lang, do you have who's doing what?
I only caught half of it, so.
Okay, so Rachel is going to write up Casey, Northwood, and Tower.
Gotcha.
Sarah is going to write up urban ecology. I am going to write up Colby Hills. Sarah is going to do McKnight. Dave is going to do 3rd Street, and
Ingrid is going to do Housey.
Ingrid is doing Housey. Yep. Dave's doing the 3rd Street, and then the
Yes, the downtown.
downtown. Yep, down.
One by the VFW.
I had work, I had a meeting after work, and then I have this meeting. I am not professional anymore. Okay,
So, and this all has to be in by when? What date?
next meeting.
Next park meeting.
Now,
May
do we
30th.
want to like submit this to the
Sarah.
and then
She's going to send us the Excel template.
Which I just did.
Okay.
Because it
She
gave
sent
you
us
the
the-
deadline as well.
Thank
Well,
Unfortunately, I won't be at work during that, so it will.
She's getting married.
I am.
She's like, no, don't look at me. She's like, I want to get out of here.
So, I'll have one of my coworkers put it in the packet, but the stuff will have to be submitted by May 22nd. So,
May 22nd.
Yep.
And is this, like, does this need to be, like, are you going to review it? And if it's not
No.
good enough, it needs.
well, I won't be here.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
When do you want it due by?
Okay, our next meeting is, when's our next meeting?
It's later.
It's the 28th of May.
Like a long break. This one was an early one.
But you're saying we should have it to you by the 26th.
Yeah, because we have to get the public
Yeah, so
packet published.
May 15th? Okay.
Okay, the 15th.
Not May 15th?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, May 15th. So all of those are due to
Your
me.
taxes and send your things to Laura.
Taxes.
Home taxes are due.
April.
No, home taxes are due by May.
Oh, property.
Oh, yeah. I already
Yeah, property
took care
tax.
of those.
You don't escrow?
Nope.
I already got mine back.
Okay. Well, anyways.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a weirdo. I don't want to pay for parking lots. I don't want to pay my own property taxes. I was fighting City Hall.
Rachel, pitch us your park passport program.
Like,
Do I need to stand somewhere?
No.
Can I see my,
Yes, it's
can I see my thing? Is that an option?
here.
I don't. Okay.
She's got it.
No, we're good.
We're good.
She's got it.
I don't mind sharing.
I actually do want to stand.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You're gonna pitch it to us. Yes. Okay.
To go to the microphone then and talk officially. Yes.
Hello.
Just make sure it's on.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to my presentation on the Park Passport Program Proposal PowerPoint. Thank you. Okay, the purpose is to incentivize citizens to visit all of North St. Paul's parks, encouraging personal and positive interaction with the city's park system. Okay, so how would this work? And an individual would visit all of our parks, 12 to 14, depending on whether we want the extra two or not. The individual would take a selfie of themselves with either the park sign or a notable object. Came up with another idea while I was doing this presentation. I think it'd be really cool if we had a snowy in each park.
Yeah.
Just FYI. Okay. Then the individual would submit their selfies to a new city webpage. And then once that is reviewed by a city employee, they would come and collect their prize. Oh, wrong way. Okay. The particulars. I could see this working for all ages, children, teens, adults, elderly, whatever. It's self-paced, so there's no deadline. You can take one day to do it. You could take 12 years to do it, whatever. You can also do it any time of year. You could do it summer, spring, fall. There's no restrictions. I was thinking for a prize pickup, if it's during City Hall hours, they could pick it up at City Hall. If they need outside City Hall hours, possibly we could do a pickup at the library. I don't know. There's ideas. There's also opportunities for growth. We could do a component of like a hiking, have like a hiking trail at each park with like a password along the way. There could be a geocaching segment sometime where we have a little, bury your little treasure somewhere. There could also be a naturalist component sometime in the future where you identify a flower or a tree or an animal at different parks. Okay, ideas for prizes. I wanted to stick with the theme of the snowman, excuse me. Otherwise city branded or city business branded. I was thinking we could do a midway prize, small, like a sticker, a pin, a magnet, or like a $5 gift card for a local business. And then upon completion, a larger item such as like a t-shirt or baseball hat. Okay, pricing. I'm guessing, I don't know, 300 participants was just the number that came to mind. Don't ask me where that came from. This was what we're gonna go with. So based on, I don't have my little speaker notes here, so please forgive me. I did list these by cheapest to most expensive. The magnet was like under $1, sticker was under $1, a pin was like $3. local business card was $5. So for 300 participants, the midway prize would range between $150 and $1,500. The completion prize, I was thinking either a T-shirt where you could do youth to 4XL size, or a baseball cap. The T-shirts were $10 each. Baseball cap was $15 each. So the completion prize for 300 participants would be $3,000 to $4,500. And this pricing is based on purchasing the items 100 pieces at a time. So the upfront cost would be $1,000 to $2,000 for the midway prize, and the completion prize purchasing 100 of each prize. And then we'd also need to create the program webpage where the individual would submit their selfies for the city to review. The annual budget for this program for 300 participants would be about $3,000 to $6,000 and would take about 20 hours of employee time, which is reviewing the selfies and distributing the prize. Basing this off of each individual, the cost per participant is $10 to $20, depending on the prizes. And then for 5 participants, it added 1 additional hour of employee time. How do we promote this lovely program? You got the sign at Casey Lake. I don't know, flyers maybe? We could put flyers at the parks. We could put, I don't know if we're allowed to put flyers in like schools and churches. At the car show, we could have a flyer or signage. And then at future park events, we could advertise future park events. And then I'm sure they'd add something to the city website, the city newsletter, and the city socials. And I'm done.
Could we choose them from the park commission instead of having the city pick them?
Choose what?
Choose the winners, or whatever we're gonna up the price.
It's not, no one's like competing with each other. It's, you do it all and you win. It's like a race. You finish the race and you win.
Okay, so it's just an administrative thing for the city, and that's about all we got. If they complete it, okay.
But I mean, if there was after hours and the commissioners wanted to, or we could tell them they have to come to our meeting.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yep.
Ava did volunteer to review them, which is.
Okay.
I love that idea, because then she
Yeah.
can take photos
Yeah.
of the winners and advertise.
Good idea.
Was it you that said something? Here, I'm looking at this promotion piece, and I'm thinking, flyers, physical flyers are not as effective anymore, sadly, as QR codes. And wasn't it you that mentioned?
So
How hard is it to put a QR code?
Oh, it's so easy.
somewhere at Casey and say, oh, here's a full
Yes.
program.
So,
So,
yeah, so
on
that's,
board.
I think the best way to handle that is to combine that. So put a flyer with like the title and whatever, and then a QR code for more info.
yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah, normally I'm kind of curmudgeonly. I can't believe I'm the one saying this, but normally I'm like, QR codes. I just want to talk to a waitress or waiter.
I don't want it at restaurants, but I think this would be a good
Yeah,
application.
but this, because you want to get people
You
when they're
pique their
visiting the
interest,
park.
and they're like, oh, let me learn more.
And then, of course, the website, the city website, but,
I recommend we move forward.
yeah.
I would just say let's look at the T-shirt baseball cap cost. That seems really high. I just placed an order for like 200 shirts and it was around like 500. So maybe like we could.
I was on like Redbubble. Or
Okay,
not Redbubble.
totally.
I was on.
That was the only thing that was I'm like, oh, that's like almost our Southwood budget. But
no, it was-
I'd say I bet the city has like
Yeah.
even graphic traffic or something. As long as we can keep that like manageable.
I think it could be much lower.
Then if the staff time feels okay, then. think
There
it's
was
awesome.
a few concerns I just want to talk through. So the first one was the midway prize, and for us to like have to keep track of who did it and who hasn't done it so far was kind of a concern for us.
Okay.
So we do like the idea, but there would have to be some like logistics worked out, especially depending on who's like actually in the office to do it. If we, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we need to really think about if we want to do the midway prize. The T-shirt thing was like, we don't like that because we have to keep all the sizes in stock, and that's hard for us.
That's what I was.
Oh,
So like a hat is nice.
Yeah.
Or even like they sell Graphic Traffic has like cheap blankets also. that we could look at. So I can certainly put some ideas together that
Yeah.
way too and get some other costs.
Totally open to other options. And I think that does make sense of the difficulty with the logistics of a midway prize. And like,
Yeah.
we only have 12.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
I would also agree, that's more management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Would
What
it,
about,
would it help to have an available commissioner help her or come down to the city and help you guys out when these things lay out?
If we get like a ton of submissions, potentially.
Are you okay with that? I'd be more than happy. I got time during the day. Run down here and,
We're happy to see you.
oh, gosh, that's,
the other thing is maybe it's a participant prize, like that just like, that you guys like a pin, something you guys have like writing into something that like, if you participate, stop by City Hall and like, you know, that way it's kind of just the honor system. You guys don't have to check for a photo. You can just say, hey, I did the passport thing and it said at any time, you know, like, you could say, well, did you complete it or did you do it? Okay, well, here's the, like something you would give, I don't know, if it just gets people in and gets them more engaged
Yeah.
versus like a checkpoint.
Yeah, and we, as a city, have stickers kind of being developed already,
That's what I'm
so
like.
that's something that we wouldn't need to
Something you
worry
guys
about.
already have that doesn't have to be ordered, that like you would just, you don't really care.
Yeah.
It's like honor system.
maybe start small and then we'll grow from there.
Yeah.
have a,
See how the stickers go.
this really lends itself to a scavenger hunt kind of thing too, like, if, like, for example, a photo of you in front of this,
Right.
you know, mysterious object, where is that? And I could see people going, oh, I know where that is, that's down at the base of the snowman, you know, that's that weird.
That's
Yeah.
what I envision if, in the future, adding like a geocaching component.
Yeah.
So that's where you kind of use like GPS coordinates and figure out where the treasure chest is or
Okay.
what have you. And then that's kind of secretive.
So maybe that's a future idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so just do this and have it.
And then
keep it really
kind of
simple.
work from there. Yeah.
And
And I think it would be best if they were like separate programs, but related.
It would keep the interest going too. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interest after you've completed it.
Exactly.
Do you ever do anything like that with your kiddos? Kids' summer things, like a scavenger hunt?
No, but this would be absolutely a thing that our summer programs would love to be a part of. So I could definitely see it being more than 300 participants. So I would keep your prize small-ish. And I think your completion prize could be magnet, sticker, pin. And then if you wanted to do it annually, like 2020, I don't want to overcomplicate things, but Sarah's like, no. What if it was, I don't know, you know, maybe it's, you tweak the design slightly every year or something. like
Yes.
that. So,
I'm game for that.
but I think small, I still think people will be
Okay.
super into it.
Maybe like a nice magnet or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a magnet and a sticker, like two little things. I'm good with that.
Maybe just use a raffle off some of those nicer items too and be like, participants are entered in a raffle for a bigger prize.
There you go. And then you'd have a winner.
Then we'd have a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm game for that.
I love
I like
this.
that.
I think it's great. I think logistically now we just need to figure out like what the next steps are gonna be.
Okay.
So now that we're like, yay, let's do this, do you want to maybe work on like a sample flyer or a sample of like what would be in the park to bring to the next meeting?
When you say what would be in the park, like the flyer that we would put in the park or we'd have an event or whatever.
Sorry, it's just a selfie that they're taking, right? So
Yes.
it needs
Yeah.
to be like with a picture, or like a specific thing.
So I haven't been to all the parks yet, so that's why I didn't say specifically what it was. So I'm thinking probably the best option would be like the park sign. But I wanted to like visit the parks to make sure that was feasible, accessible,
Signs.
what have
It's
you.
the only thing we've done in 4 years. We all have signs.
Oh,
Sorry, I said that incorrectly. It's one of the big things we've done in the last 4 years. Put new signs up.
Rachel, let me know if you need help, or I'll just help. I'll be more than happy. She can send her my email. Well, she probably got it, but send her my email,
Or St. Paul, you know.
yeah.
Yeah,
and I'd be more than because I got time during the day.
Okay.
And you know, if you can't do stuff because you're at work, I can always help with stuff at work, or go take you around with the parks, and we'll go give you the history of each park. There's a whole lot of history going on in these
We
parks.
should give a history tour. That would be
We could do that. Yes.
let's
Okay.
talk about that.
in the future. Table out.
We'll put that in our CIP.
Yes.
I love it.
Imagine the city council's gonna have to
Okay, so maybe,
finalize this eventually.
I think we just need to take the next step and you just need to like write out what the program's gonna be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So like a written, like,
Yeah, like if
proposal.
if I don't know what's going on and like give me a document that we can give to the city. and
Okay.
that,
City council.
Oops, city council.
Oh, yeah.
would know what the program is.
okay,
Just like one pager,
okay,
and then we can move forward.
okay. So do the one page description and then an example flyer.
If you want, I'm not super attached to the flyer.
Okay.
I was thinking
do
that
the
it
example
needs to be a picture in front of a specific thing.
Okay,
But if you just get us the program so we can be like, hey, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna do it for the next meeting, I think we're good.
okay.
Okay.
Reports from staff.
Don't you want to do commissioner discussions?
Do like we've discussed what?
Well,
No, I do. Wow. Okay. So,
want to do D? I got a couple of things.
yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you on that. Okay. For the sake of time, yes, we're gonna do commissioner discussion, but if we could keep it as brief as possible,
Really brief.
that would be wonderful. So we'll just do a quick down the row commissioner discussion, and this is just an opportunity for us to talk about ideas we might have or just general things we want to bring up. Okay? So Lloyd, would you like to start?
I'm good.
Okay.
Let's keep rolling.
Sarah?
Nothing for me. I have nothing.
I do.
Okay.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, I had a call from one of our citizens. This has to do with Southwood, and because it sounds like the prediction for wood ticks are going to be high this year. He informed me that the DNR is asking, like our parks, like our nature preserve, have the paths cut clear 3 feet from the paths. And then if any citizen does come across a tick, and the way it sounds, it doesn't matter if it's from the park or from their backyard. I guess they were asking that save the tick, put it in a plastic bag, give it like a notation, and then send it off to the University of Minnesota so they can kind of track and see where there's Lyme disease and stuff like that. So that's all I had, is just it's been the recommendation is to have Public Works cut 3 feet on both sides of the trails to help
Just
So you're not walking
Yeah.
up against.
right, so they kind of cut down on the transfer from ticks to humans.
does Public Works
Information.
know about this?
No, I just got the call this afternoon.
Okay.
They will tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's gonna, Sarah, are you just gonna let them know if Dave is?
Yeah, and that particular resident was in today talking to staff, so they're also aware.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Perfect.
That's all I got.
I got no update.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
No.
You don't want to do
Oh.
reports?
All right, reports from staff.
Oh, I thought we were going, oh,
I will be super brief. So last
oh,
meeting.
sorry.
You're okay. Last meeting, it was asked of me to find out the cost of inserts into the utility bills.
Ah,
I did get that cost, and actually there is gonna be one for the
My mic wasn't on. For the upcoming events, they're hoping to get it into the May utility bill. But it might be June, but either way, they're going to have something in it. It's designed. And if you do like a half sheet or like the little, they call it a buck slip sheet, it's about $640 for 7,500 inserts. If we did the full size 8.5 by 11, it's roughly $1,700. So just as a general cost.
so you said there's a version in design now.
Correct.
Is that that's all events, including park events?
Yes. So it's just going to promote, because we're doing the buck slip, so it's small, we can't fit everything on it. So it's just going to talk about, check here for more event updates, sign up for our newsletter, check social media, all that kind of stuff for our events. So
Okay.
Is
it
that
looks
coming
great.
out of the parks budget?
No,
Excellent.
communications. But because I was asked, I brought it back. So
Like if we wanted to do
Sweet.
something like that, 640 is totally reasonable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What's the lead time that you would need?
it's like, it's kind of ridiculous. It's like 2 months.
2 months lead time.
So,
Okay.
Housie Park windscreen was requested by Sarah last time, or one of you, I think it was you. Yeah. And so Public Works is working on that. It's not coming out of your budget also, but it's about a $5,000 cost. And they're looking to have that installed sooner rather than later. So we'll see that up soon. It's out of the maintenance budget is my understanding. So.
Steady.
The only other update I have is that the Park and Open Space Master Plan was officially approved by City Council at the last council meeting, so we can have that as an official document. Congratulations.
Thank you, City Council.
So that's all I got.
Amazing news. Okay. Reports from commissioners and park liaison. Any super pertinent things from your parks that you would like to share? Rachel, we're gonna start with you.
No.
Yeah, at Southwood has a couple of benches that have to be redone. I'm sorry, you guys asked. And there's
The sun
still,
does come up in the east.
and there's still a couple of huge piles of wood brush that should be removed. That's it.
Thank you, David.
Nothing in Silver. Or direct.
Nothing for me. Nothing.
Good.
Wonderful. Okay, now we can make.
Now
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, but who made the
Lloyd,
motion?
Lloyd.
I didn't even vote.
I second it.
Stereo.
0 seconds.
Meeting
Okay,
is
sorry.
adjourned.
It doesn't-
Oh, we got to vote.
Aye.
Oh.
Aye.
Aye.
Just saying. Just for the record.